rev up your engines. Today I'm going to talk about 5 things that you shouldn't do to your car in the coming cold weather. And the first thing is this: if your windshield is all frozen up with ice, don't do this. Do not heat up a pot with hot boiling water and pour it on the windshield. Because guess what? That hot water can crack your windshield. Windshields are not cheap. In this case, it's a good idea to have patience. Just start your car, put it on defrost, full blast with the heat on as high as it goes, then walk away. Wait for the car to warm up. The heat will melt the ice. Then you can pick pieces of the ice off, but don't pour boiling water on it. You can shatter your windshield. Now, the next thing not to do when it gets really cold is if your windshield wipers are frozen to the glass, don't turn the windshield wipers on to try to clear it off. It can rip the windshield blades right off, which is kind of a pain, but more importantly, doing so can burn out your windshield wiper motor. It's hidden inside here. It's a big enough pain to take it all apart and replace it, but brand new windshield wiper motors can cost a small fortune. They can cost $500–600 or more. It's not something you want to ruin because you're in a hurry and you're going to turn the wipers on that are frozen to the glass. Here again, you want to have some patience. Now, if you want and you have one of those nice plastic scrapers, you can scrape all around the blade, and if you can break it loose, turn the heater on and let it melt at least a little bit, and once they're broken loose and there's a little heat going, then you could turn them on intermittent. Every once in a while they'll wipe and push pieces of the ice away as the defroster melts it, and eventually it'll push them all away. Don't just rush into your car and slam those wipers on full speed, because you can do a lot of destruction. I remember one Christmas vacation we took the kids to Lake Tahoe, California, where it's real high altitude and it snows. They had like 380 inches of snow that year. All these cars are parked with their windshield wipers stuck up in the air, and I thought, what are they doing? Well, the locals just explained, hey, our wipers, they freeze to the glass. If we pick them up in the air, hey, it makes cleaning a windshield with a scraper pretty easy. Then we can just put them back down and drive away. Hey, that wasn't a bad idea, really. And of course, hey, if you have any place you can park where there's shelter, that's even better. They don't have to clean anything off. Now, the next thing not to do is not to touch your tires at all. Leave them alone. Don't do anything. You gotta check the pressure. Because when it gets cold outside, it's simple physics. The colder it is outside, the tire pressure goes down, because the cold air is less pressure than the hot air. So, always check your tires when the car's cold first thing in the morning, because when you drive down the road, they heat up and the pressure goes up. You're supposed to check them cold. Now, this is an extreme example, but it happened. A customer of mine moved to Alaska, and they didn't check the tire pressure in their tires. And it got so cold outside that when he started up the car and drove it a few feet, all 4 tires immediately went flat. Because it was so cold there, the pressure had gone way down, and tires are made out of rubber. When they get really cold, like the 40–50 below he was dealing with, they're not that pliable anymore. And one with low air pressure and not pliable, as soon as they moved, the bead on the tire where it sits on the rim just flexed off, and they all went immediately flat. Now, odds are that isn't going to happen to you, but realize really low pressure, the car's not going to handle right, it's not going to brake right, and the lower the pressure in the tires, the more chance you have of getting a puncture, because it's softer, there's less pressure. Nails can get in easier. You just want to check them every once in a while when they're cold. The next thing is, don't forget about your car's battery. Sure, it's hiding under the hood and you don't look at it much, but it's very important for starting your car. Now, the colder it is outside, the harder your battery has to work to start the car. They have what are called cold cranking amps ratings. In this case, it's 700 amps of cold cranking amps. Now, that's a lot of amperes for this little bitty 1.8 liter Toyota engine. It originally came with a 450 cold cranking amp battery, but they just put in smaller batteries because it's cheaper to make them that way. My advice: get the highest cold cranking amps you can that fits in your car. The alternators can charge them up. They just put in lower ratings because it's cheaper to make the car that way. And with cold weather, hey, have a mechanic or auto parts store that check them for free. Check it out before it gets really cold. It's a simple test. Just put negative on negative, positive on positive. It's that easy. It shows that it's got 100% state of health, but it's a little bit low, and that's because I don't drive this car all this much. It's just a work car. Plus, that battery's 6 years old. It's on its last legs. If I lived up north where it's really cold, I'd replace it now. But here, heck, I just put the charger on it once a month to recharge it, and it works perfectly fine, and it gets me through the next summer. One winter, when it doesn't start, I'll just replace it. Now, the fifth and last thing not to do is don't forget to check your antifreeze in your cooling system. Sure, it's a sealed system and nobody ever thinks about it, but you gotta test it before the winter. It's a very simple test. You just suck into this tester, and in this case it says it's good to minus 35 Fahrenheit. Since it rarely even gets to plus 35 Fahrenheit here in Houston, I don't have any worries about my engine freezing up. But even here in Texas, I've seen guys ruin their engine. They'll do something like they put a water pump on their car in the summer, and they're in a hurry, and they just pour straight water in, and they're driving the thing around, and then a cold freeze does come in. And if you know anything about water, when it freezes, it expands. So, if your engine block and radiator and everything else has too much water and not enough antifreeze, when it gets cold, it'll expand, and it destroys things. It can crack the block in your engine, it can destroy your radiator, do a lot of damage instead of just going out and buying a $13, $14 gallon of antifreeze and putting it in. And while you're at it, kind of look at it. If it's all dirty, it probably needs to be flushed out. Check with your particular antifreeze. Some are good for 3 years or 90,000 miles. Some are good for 7 years or 150,000 miles. You don't have to change the stuff all that often, but eventually it does wear out. So now you know the 5 things not to do to your car this winter, so you'll have smooth driving. Might be a little slick, but at least you'll be prepared. And since this is the Thursday segment where I answer a viewer's question, place your own question on the YouTube comments below, and I'll pick the best ones to make a single video to answer your questions. So where else can you find a guy with 50 years experience of fixing cars to answer your own question with a video? So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.